I've always been fascinated why teams don't seem to work too well in business, and if you look at it, business teams are based on the military model, command and control, which is great for making people go into harm's way, but not great for getting creativity and autonomy. My interest then is to find other places where teams were done differently, and the big place are done very differently is nature. Nature is totally different models. Also our personal lives. We organise our families in a very different way than we organise our teams. I call all this natural teams, and the interest is how can you bring this stuff into business to make teams more effective. The fundamental principle of leadership in a natural team is there's no Mr. Big. They're not led exclusively by one leader. And you just have to look up into the sky to see how a natural team is led. If you look at a flock of geese migrating, you'll see the famous V formation. That the different individuals in the V exchange leadership positions constantly. And that's the whole principle of a natural team. The right leader at the right time for the right task. One of the important things about a natural team is its boundary. It's actually a semi-porous membrane. And this is very important. It needs to be strong enough to keep all the bad stuff out, but it needs to be good enough to let the food and energy in. And natural teams have this semi-porous boundary. Our teams often have no boundary or a totally rigid boundary that constrains and strangles a team. So natural teams have a semi-porous membrane that enables them to get the good stuff in and to keep the bad stuff out. One of the big differences about natural teams is there's no such thing as a standalone natural team. They're always fully connected to their ecosystem. And when we apply that to our lives, we need to think about teams using their networks better. Their strong ties to do what they do well, but more importantly their weak ties to connect them to the ecosystem so that they have an early warning system and they can call in favours, because no team's planning's that good that they don't need short notice favours. So natural teams think ecosystem, never stand alone. Natural teams have very characteristic growth patterns which are very different from our kind of teams. Basically they start off and grow very, very slowly, and then when they get the critical mass they grow very rapidly. Then eventually they've fulfilled their function and they die. So they start off amazingly fragile but grow very strong. Our teams start off very strong but go very fragile because we haven't respected the natural growth cycle of the team, which is fundamental. One of the things that natural teams do is swarming behaviour. Swarming behaviour means your team has an automatic response to a crisis or an opportunity. Think if you're flying a plane. You wouldn't be very happy if the flight crew said there was an emergency and then went into a big debate about what to do to handle it. Certain things need to be automatic, and a human team needs to have 7 or 8 things that it'd be sure the whole team will do automatically in the event of a crisis. They say if you look down anywhere in the open ground, there's a pretty good chance you'll see an ant. Now, ants are very interesting in how they communicate. They communicate by chemical trails. They either lead a trail to something or a trail away from it. And that's one of the principles of natural teams. Lots of short messages. Lots of simple short messages indicating opportunities or threats. Contrast that with our teams where we do a small amount of long and complex messages which are totally misunderstood. So teams, if they want to coordinate well, short, simple messages.